I want to use my.
Welcome everyone to our fifth night of the Juicy Revival. We are getting ready to gear up for our discussion tonight about the soul wealth of Sacred Sisterhood. And I'm super honored to host this fifth edition of the Revival series. And I am looking forward to talking to you in the chat. Tonight, I have a few more pointers and tips, which is if you have any questions, you can go right into the chat, and I will look for your questions in the chat and monitor them there. So this is the fifth night, and I probably could have called this the Blue Jean Revival because it certainly has been casual in nature. I probably could have considered it a fireside chat because many of us have been indoctrinated that things have to show up a certain kind of way. And so this is an opportunity for us to really just have a chat that revives us, to receive wisdom nuggets that revive us. And so this is the fifth night. I want to encourage you to check out the other discussions we had starting on Monday night with My Juicy Voice. The second night, Coming into My Own. The third night, The Wealth and Health of, what is it? I forgot what it was. But we discussed the wealth and health of being juicy. And then last night we had a technical glitch, but we talked about the being turned up, tapped in, and orgasmically unstoppable. So the third night was the sensuality, the sensual relationships of health and wealth. And so that was a powerful night. I don't know how it is that title slipped me. And so tonight we hope to bring it all together because, as I've shared with you, one of the magical things about Juicy Spirit is something that I could not have planned for, and that is what happens in the Sacred Sisterhood of Juicy Spirit, which is a confidential and safe environment that by design, and it is an environment to restore how women feel. So many women come into Juicy Spirit, for instance, and because it is a group, it is designed to be a group process. Sometimes women come in very anxious about sharing and letting go because we have been judged so much by other women and, of course, by society. And then we live in a paradigm where we live with women should do this and women shouldn't do that. And so we can be rather hard on ourselves and on one another. And so when you come into the Juicy Spirit environment, one thing that's for sure and two things that's for certain is that it is a safe, loving environment only. And it is an environment of being affirmed and being lifted. You know, I come from processes that have been very much in your face. I've come from processes that have been hard. You know, I know the processes of being laid out on the floor. But many of us are used to that being necessary in order to move through pain. And the Juicy Spirit process, you've heard me say it every night this week, is I want to introduce a movement to the world, particularly to the world of melanated women, all women, black, brown, yellow, that and of course my Anglo sisters, and I want to tell you why I qualified that. There's a reason for that. Because our post-traumatic syndromes regarding poverty and oppression have us programmed to believe that we have to do so much hard and painful. Now, it does not mean that when you are diving into the places of yourself that may be shadows, that it doesn't feel uncomfortable. And there is a difference. And so I say that because in other processes that I've shared in a diverse room of women from all over the world, there has been more of a willingness because this world has made it, there's levels. You know, I love the Meek Mill's rap song that talks about there's levels to this ish, okay? Because even in our cultural experience, when we even talk about the feminist movement, which I do not consider myself a feminist, I am pro-woman. I'm a womanist. but in the feminist movement, some of those things did not initially apply to us. Though there was a group of women who advocated for themselves in a paradigm that did not apply to our community because we had no choice but to lean on one another and our homes were intact in a different way. Now we could look at it at that point of history, but we can also go back to ancient cultures. And ancient cultures, you know, the red tent just aired, and everybody was so smitten with the red tent. It definitely is a piece of material that I asked some of the Juicy Butterflies to read, because I believe that that material sets a context, and it's so brilliantly written as a fiction. However, it is laden with truth. And the red tent, it really illustrates the idea of what we as women get to go back to when we come together. Now, of course, you know, I know a lot of people get excited and say, I want to help women heal. I feel drawn to women. But I have to tell you something, the sisters who are healers and in women's work, and it's something that Iyanla taught us and taught me. If you don't do your work, if you don't invest in your process of healing, then you are just going out wounded and spilling all over the people. And so one of the things that we did as we were reminded of as coaches is before we went out in the world, we had to be able to demonstrate a level of mastery. And so I just want to say that to some of us who are in ministry and some of us who are saying, I want to go, you know, I want to get out there. Sisters, the biggest help that each of us can do is to stay in a process of healing ourselves. Now, one of the things that I'm excited about having is my dear sister and my friend, the Reverend Dr. I got to say that again. The Reverend Dr. Vikki Johnson, and that's exciting to say, and hopefully you'll get a chance to hear why that's so exciting to say. But this sister and I met in it was a spiritual setup. Because I have to say that I have a great context for sisterhood because of my biological sister. And if you're watching, I always call her my earth angel. She is my safe place to land. I used to say my safe place to fall, but I'm not falling anymore. I'm landing because I'm flying. And my sister, and I didn't know it. I didn't know it because there was a time after my parents' divorce where my relationship with my mother was difficult, but my sister, being older than me, was like a second mother, and we in a covering. And so I never grew up with the context of having these ill-formed relationships with women. My sister used to guide me, and I guess because she was younger, I could hear her. And she used to tell me, you know, to be careful about changing your friends like you change your socks. So even in high school, I had a group of young women at the time who were my friends all the way through high school. I wasn't the girl that I fell out with one girl and then the next minute I'm with a different girl. And see, many of us are still doing that in our adult relationships. We're still doing that as in our families, and that is a normal. So then it makes it easy for us to watch reality television, to see them fall out, talk behind each other's back, and call each other names. This is a very passionate subject for me because I have gotten my greatest healing in circles of women, led by women, with women. And I like to say, even when we're doing work, a lot of times we don't know how to do the work without bringing the men in. You know, it's always okay for them to come into the room, but just like the red tent, you have to close the door. Okay? Not and that's very metaphysical too, because not only do you get to close the door in terms of the access, but even when you come together, you know, when we go out to happy hour, when we go to chill out with one another, what's the first thing that comes up? Relationships, right? Most of the time it's relationships. And so this is an opportunity. I believe Juicy Spirit presents something that's very unique. I feel like it was channeled through me, but I have to say, you know, this sister carries the spirit and mark of an imprint that I feel like I have in my sister circle. Meaning most of my deepest relationships are spiritual first. It's not about what we wear, where we work, who we're aligned with, God first. So that's our reference point. If things fall apart, come undone, feel funny, we have a spiritual context to return to. And I have to say, you know, I feel funny because I know Vikki is loved, Dr. Vikki is loved by so many people, and so many people feel close to her. But I do definitely feel like she is in my BFF circle, my council of elders, my council, my board of trustees, as I call. I have a sister council I call a board of trustees. You got to get you a board of trustees, sisters, but let them be sisters that nudge you, because Elder Vikki Johnson and I have a Mary Elizabeth relationship, and we take turns, and I love that. And so Elder Vikki's can be found at All Things Vikki. Isn't that simple? Because there's no limit in the way that this woman is able to connect and to minister with people all over the world. She is the author of a re-released book, Addicted to Counterfeit Love. And the book, we're going to weave in the Addicted to Counterfeit Love, because I said in my post that let this be an intervention for you through her story, through the nuggets that she shares. What else can I say? She is an executive at BET, but you can log on to All Things Vikki and read her bio, or you can go to about me /Vikki, yes, about.me / Elder Vikki at that time, right?
Yep.
She's still Elder Vikki, but she just recently was granted a honorary doctorate degree, which makes her Excellency Elder Johnson. So that's my big setup and intro. Now we can get right into these juicy nuggets. I do say get your pen and paper. I feel like I already dropped a few. This may have to be some other part 2 or something that we do, because I think that it's not that many women who are talking about it. And so, Vikki, are you ready for us to get started?
I am ready. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you and I can see you. I hadn't seen my sister in a minute, so I'm super excited to see her.
Yeah, just add a little more light, just a little bit.
You look great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, here.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you were able to get on to the broadcast tonight, and we've had people who have been looking on Facebook. It's broadcast live on YouTube, and it also broadcast live right here in Google+. So the number of viewers sometimes is not actually true, but what would you like to open? Is anything you'd like to open up with? Because I certainly have a whole lot of questions.
Well, I'd like to open up with gratitude, and I concur about our relationship, how it started, and where it is. And definitely what's true is we take turns, for sure. We definitely take turns supporting each other, and I am grateful for that. So let's jump right into some questions.
So how did you get to be such a space holder for sisterhood long before your brand developed into that message of sisterhood? How did you become such a space holder for it?
I think I was born this way. I woke up like this. I think I was born. Honestly, I think I was born this way. I don't think it was something that I discovered as much as it was something that gradually over time has been revealed. If that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah.
Um, as far back as I can remember, I was always around women. Spent a lot of time with both of my grandmothers. I was blessed to know both of them. Um, and my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was an advocate for women. So when I say I was born this way, I mean that because she was the national president. This is before Dr. Dorothy Height and the National Council of Negro Women. She was the national president of the National Association of Colored Women's Clubs. And so when, I mean, as far back as I can remember, she traveled going to women's conferences and things like that. And, you know, I talk about often when I was 10 years old, she and my mom helped me start a girls' club that was a part of the larger national organization. So I've always been around girls, did the Girl Scout thing, the brownie thing.
Yeah, me
Uh,
too.
then that turned into having a lot of female first cousins. I am one of about 42 first cousins, a lot of whom
Wow.
are girls. So we had a lot of sleepovers, girls only, at our grandmother's house, this same grandmother. Um, she was just an advocate for women and girls. And so then that turned into playing sports, team sports. So that was a sisterhood. And then when I came to college on a basketball scholarship, I ended up playing ball. Then I ended up pledging my sophomore year. So that was another level of sisterhood. So it wasn't something that I really pursued as much as it was just something that evolved over the years of my life and in the context that I have been in. I was one of those women who used to say, most of my friends are guys because I don't get along with girls. That was me at one point. And then one day, it was God or my other self, my higher self, just said, well, you're the common denominator.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that entry. One of the things that I forgot to say about you is that you are also an honorary juicy butterfly. You witnessed this process. I forgot to say that because if you're wondering and you've been watching all week, it's been other juicy butterflies that are part of this revival. Well, Elder Vikki Johnson, as you all may know, when we talk about that Mary and Elizabeth relationship, she actually was a big motivating factor for me coming out of hiding with this work. So I don't have it written anywhere, but I definitely, maybe a couple places actually. But when you talk about this sisterhood, you remind me of things that I forgot about that I did even along the way beyond my sister. But with Rebirth and with Juicy Spirit, it had been sitting actually, as are many files of workshops that have been downloads and books that I have to write. And this woman, when she did the Girl Talk Unplugged retreat, her very first retreat, um, man, GTU, it was an amazing experience, and she continues to host them annually, so do stay tuned and have that experience. She invited me. She said, "LaTanya, I want you to be to do one of the small group roundtables, and your topic is going to be sensuality, pleasure." And in my spirit, I was like, oh my God, Vikki is so many things I could talk about with my brand. I do vision coaching. I do program and strategic management and team. I'm like, it's so many things that I could do. Why you would want me to do that one? And she didn't hesitate. The thing about Vikki is she says powerful stuff with a straight face and just keeps it moving. So I just wanted to give that context for someone who's watching to say, well, did Vikki do your program? Vikki's been a part. All of my core sisterhood are goddesses. Every one of them have done a rites of passage process in one way or another. And Vikki and I have partnered on other things together for women around sensuality and orgasm. Yes, Elder Vikki Johnson is an advocate for sensuality, pleasure, as your spiritual walk. Would you like to share about that, Vikki?
I'm an advocate for what? Pleasure?
Sensuality.
Sensuality is important.
As a spiritual walk.
Absolutely. Unapologetically so, because the misnomer is that being sensual is equivalent to being sinful, and it's quite the opposite. Being sensual is God's intention for us to express Him and to experience Him. That's a tweetable. Sensuality is God's intent for us to express Him and to experience Him as us, which makes us goddesses. That is the God-goddess paradigm. So when we're talking to women, He gives us senses: touch, taste, sight, sound, smell, to experience His creation and to express Him as us. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I like to say him or her because so many of us are so indoctrinated with, and I'll use that word indoctrinated, assuming that people know what it means. But what I mean is that our reference point is such a male anthropomorphic God. And there is a piece of information that is missing severely, particularly from the three major religions, and that's very intentional. So yes, absolutely, it makes sense in the context of God as with being genderless, actually, and because the maleness and the femaleness, and really it's not gender, it's energy, masculine and feminine, is just a reflection of balance of masculine and yin and yang energy. So I just want to say that because I do have people from all walks of life who don't make that reference too.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
No, that wasn't for you. That was for our audience. Remember, we got.
Oh, I'm saying, yeah. I'm totally open to that.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Now I want to weave it together because we started off talking about Sacred Sisterhood. We went right into sensuality. How does that connect in your experience of yourself as a goddess to soul wealth?
Well, soul wealth is defined as abundance, compassion, and authentic beingness with self and others. And the only way you can really live out your life authentically is to be sensual. You have to touch, you have to taste, you have to hear, you have to smell, you have to see, and see you as reflected by everybody that you come in contact with. So soul wealth, and using the context of the soul as the seat of the emotions, in order to be emotionally wealthy, you have to be unplugged. you have to go through processes. You have to sit in the lotus. You know, you have to sit in your process, go through your process, so that all of the superficiality and the layers that we have on top of our wealth, our soul wealth, can be peeled away. So
Mhm.
sensuality, again, I go back to expression and experience.
Mhm.
Expression and experience, expression and experience. And the more we express, the more we experience. The more we experience, the higher we express. The higher we express, the higher we experience. And it just continues to go from level to level to level. And as you go higher and come in contact with your highest self and live in that place, you then operate from a place of soul wealth instead of soul liability, soul poverty, soul pain. You get to experience life in a different way when your sensuality is just intact and healthy and a tool that you use to go through life. It just is a beautiful thing. And that ties to sisterhood, because then we become reflections of one another, the beauty, the grace, the goddessness of one another.
Mhm.
One of my mission points is, I like to say, you know, that my goal, my mission, my objective is to help women be great in the mirror first and then in the marketplace. And so when I become all that I am, when I allow my light to shine, you know, I give other women permission to do the same. Um, and that's why
That's a key
sisterhood,
point, though.
what did you
That's
say?
a key point. That's a key point that I don't want to miss. You said, and I give other women permission to do the same. And you are really masterful at that. Not and I want to say, when I'm saying these things like masterful and how did you get here, what I'm saying about Elder Vikki is this is her nature before her brand was developed. And that is a good segue to talk about significance. So many of us are becoming brand whores. That's my new term. We're brand whores. And so there's a level of inauthenticity because I want to, because who are you from behind the brand? And I say that passionately, even if it risks being in your face, because we just lost another woman, TT Branch of Miss Jessie. And just last year, Vikki, we just addressed another syndrome called the Olivia Pope syndrome. We just
Right.
we just did that around the time where we lost another young life. And
Yep.
so I wanted to capture you saying that piece, and I give other women permission to do the same. I have a part B to that I want you to minister to. But what do you see as far as this brand shuffling that we are doing now?
It is definitely a search for significance. Um, and I this is so timely because I attended a funeral yesterday of a
Mm,
friend's father, and
mm-hmm,
the eulogist was masterful, and his words really resonated with me. And what he talked about was just how adventurous this person was, how it seemed like everything about his life was expressing the possibilities of God in a culture of impossibilities. So he did everything
mm-hmm,
that you didn't think a black man would do. He was a scuba diver, a skydiver, a hang glider, co-founders of the Black Ski Club Incorporated. He did ballroom dancing, he did hand dancing, and he mastered everything he did. And so Reverend Hagler said, that's what life is about. Life is a quest for definition first and then significance. And what you're seeing, the brand whoredom, as you called it, is women chasing significance before they really understand definition of who they are and who they're called to be. Just because you have the capacity and the skill and the gift to do something doesn't mean that's your assignment. And when you are outside of your assignment, you are on a fast track to burning out. You're on a fast track to not having the impact you could have when you release everything else and get the definition. Who am I? And who am I supposed to be in the world? And what am I supposed to be doing? Who am I supposed to impact, and what does that look like? And when you authentically embrace definition of who you are, significance is an automatic result. It's not something you have to chase. An honorary doctorate, I didn't apply for that. I didn't ask for it. I didn't go after it. Writing 5 books, I didn't pursue being an author. I was helping other people get their manuscripts in the hands of publishers and becoming published authors. It wasn't something I wanted to do. I didn't pursue being on the radio. I simply did a friend a favor, and in the midst of the conversation was asked if I would consider being on the radio every day, and that's how I'm Every Woman was birthed in 2000.
Yeah.
From that, our Girl Talk. So I was simply walking out who I am authentically by definition. I'm a team player. I played sports, team sports for 15 years. So, and I'm a good friend to people. I know that. I am a good friend. I don't always get that reciprocated, but I intend every day, if you are worth me being in relationship with, you're worth having my best. So I'm a good friend to people. I ended up on the radio because I was doing a friend a favor because he couldn't find anybody who wanted to come on air on Valentine's Day. I was like, yeah, I'll come. I'll do it. So when you're walking in definition, significance is an automatic consequence. And we have the cart before the horse a lot of times. We want to be significant, but we don't want to do that in the context of authentic definition of our assignment. And that is what is backwards. We see a lot of people doing things. They appear to be successful. Oh, I want that. But you have no idea of the price that was paid.
Yeah.
I unapologetically declare that I created Girl Talk, even though it's in many settings. I've been doing Girl Talk since 2000. It was created in 1999. This is 2014. The reason I added unplugged is to set it apart. And now I understand, have the business mindset now, yes, to get that trademarked. But I've been doing this for 15 years. I've been mentoring women. I've been coaching women. I just wasn't calling it that. So I've been walking in the definition of my assignment and the significance. Now I'm just stepping into a season of recognition and honor and awareness of the work that I've been doing. But we've been walking this walk for a long time. And just because you have a story or a mess, it's not automatic that the next progression is for you to be a coach. And that's what has happened, because that has become a trend. That's what it is.
Well, not just a coach, but also running to be in the pulpit, or sometimes, when we look at TT Branch, for instance, the report is that she suffered with depression, but she had a successful brand. And I'm not calling her a brand whore at all. I'm talking about not being able to connect authentically from your heart. That's what I'm talking about. And one of the reasons why I mentioned that is because some of you all know that the idea of talking about sensuality for people who have sin consciousness could be a risk for someone as visible as Elder Vikki, serving as the pastor of women. But she has stood by my side in every bit of my message. And I honestly, some of our other fellow sisters don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. And so, but I see you do that for many things. You bring voice to many things that sometimes people don't touch because even of their ministerial brand or be protecting whatever it is that they have. So I mean, we don't have to stay on brand that long, but the point is that there are women who have been hiding, and I did write a message about, it's time for us to stop hiding, stop pretending like we don't know or that we don't study and explore other things, that our soul isn't craving more. It's okay if your soul is craving more. A lot of the things that we tend to withhold from ourselves, experiences that we tend to withhold from ourselves, is because of caring what other people think. And I certainly have been that. I've been very delayed in releasing this, in birthing rebirth. So, well, delayed by the standard of having something that you've been holding on to, but everything, of course, we know is in divine order. So Vikki, I know that we have women who inbox us, who write to us all the time about these types of fears. And how do these fears, as a natural progression in the conversation for significance, cause us to, as you see it, become addicted to counterfeit love?
Because when you're not being authentic, you're attracting people and things that are not authentic. When you're hiding, you attract who you are. You attract what you reflect. And so if you're afraid and you're living as a counterfeit, you're going to attract counterfeit. Whatever. Love, friendship, whatever it is. So authenticity becomes the magnet for the promise. I'll say that again. Authenticity becomes the magnet for the promise. And the promise is what you're supposed to have. The promise is peace. The promise is purpose, and it's purpose. The promise is provision, you know. So when you tap into, oh yeah, this is it. This is my star. When you tap into it, you are there. And things that don't belong begin to fall away, and that includes people.
Well, we both have been married before and divorced and loved again and been disappointed and had hopes for relationships that ended up being disappointments. And one of the things that I also said in sharing with the sisters today, some women have a tendency to go into isolation when that type of realization happens, when you are in those entanglements. And if you could talk to the sister who is hiding, whether it be the sexless marriage, whether it be she has a boyfriend and he has a girlfriend, whether it be just the depth of despair from, what chapter in your book would you say that they could go to?
I'm thinking. Um, the title isn't called this, but I would say it is. Wow.
I know it's powerful when it's coming.
Well, this chapter is not actually in the book, but it's called Settling. And settling is counterfeit love, really.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because what someone else is doing to you is no worse than what you're doing to yourself. That's settling. Um, we only tolerate the level of abuse that we inflict upon ourselves. So that's why self-love, self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence is crucial when you're on the path to authenticity and soul wealth and purpose, because as you're loving yourself, then you begin to attract those who pour love on you also. The more self, is two things I want to say about settling. The more self work that I did, the more work I did on me, the first thing that changed was my mindset. And when my mindset changed, what I tolerated changed. It had nothing to do with the other person. It had more to do with me saying to me, you're better than this. You deserve better than this. So when I started treating myself better, circumstances started being created that released me from the things that I was settling for and the people I was settling with. That's one thing. Then the other thing I want to share about that, LaTanya, is now looking back, I understand that I created the deterioration of those relationships. You know why? Because I'm that powerful. And what I realized is that I had to do it because with every dimension, I became closer to who I am becoming, if that makes sense. I know it sounds redundant, but we're all becoming who we already are. So when I started morphing and shifting, I outgrew those relationships. And so what had to happen was, what happened? I needed to get out of them so that I could be free to become who I am. And I was trying to talk slow so that, those with us tonight can follow me. It all works together. It all works together. And looking back, had I been in those relationships, I definitely wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. Not at all.
Well,
I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. That I know.
this is special because I don't know if you noticed, but the broadcast cut off right as you were saying something very powerful, and you dropped off, and then I dropped off, lost internet connection, and then got internet connection again and came back in, and you were still talking.
Oh, I was talking to myself. Okay, that's cool.
So it says that we're still live and we still have viewers. No, you were talking to the viewers, so I don't know which one of them they saw. But last night I said that any moment can be the moment, and so sometimes things show up like not like we intend to. And so when you're live and you're fully present, sometimes there are things they're glitches. And these glitches show up as distractions. They show up as interruptions. And you may think that it was a failure, but all you got to do is reload and reconnect. That's what I get directly when those messages happen. I receive them from the universe. So I didn't hear everything that you said, but I intervened and tried to remember a quote. A quote that you said at Girl Talk about settling. And you said that we sometimes are unwilling to wait, so something about settling. Do you remember?
We often settle when we become impatient, when we don't want to wait, when we are when we're comparing our journey to someone else's. But, I got messages over the years from people that I trusted to not settle. I knew that settling again would be devastating to my life. So I was willing to wait on my reflection. Um, what I said maybe when you were off was that a lot of times relationships end because they cannot accommodate who we are becoming. And we're becoming who we already are, right?
Mm.
So,
Oh, that's good. That's tweetable. We are becoming who we already are. That's really deep and it has a lot of layers. But continue.
yeah, it does. And I'm speaking in terms of settling. What I also said, I don't know if you heard, is that we are so powerful when we intend to be on this journey. When we set the intention that I'm on my way to being my highest, most powerful, authentic self, we subconsciously begin creating breakdowns in the things that no longer serve us. So
Woo!
up that may show up like a relationship ending, a friendship falling apart, when you live in this higher space and then in the higher consciousness of yourself. When you live there and you begin looking back, you're like, oh, that needed to happen, because there's no way that I could be who I am and do what I'm doing right now if those relationships were still intact the way they were then.
Mm-hmm.
Who I am now and what I'm doing just would not be. So that's where we have to pour gratitude on everything that has happened up to this point. Like, you know what? That had to happen like that.
Yeah.
And that had to happen. I had to let that go so that capacity could be created for who I am now and where I'm going. And the people who are in my life have the capacity to love me where I am and where I'm going.
Man,
And
that's so beautiful.
as I'm still ascending, it's so awesome because I shared a couple of weeks ago about how in January of this year, I got the knowing. God said to me, you have to be willing. This is going to be a year of ascending, but you have to be willing to ascend without attachments. And I feel
Yeah.
like this year has been that, where I've ascended in ways that I didn't expect and some I did expect. But now that I have gone through this year of ascending, my spiritual father, Bishop Dennis, said, now you're living in transcendence. And that is so powerful because it's true. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm I'm at an altitude where now I get to basically maintain that transcendent habitation, if you will. So I know when I'm coming down because things get larger. Like when you're flying, when I'm higher, they're smaller than they appear. And that's where I need to stay because they're distractions. Anything that is not up here is a distraction. And up here is where I get to be in my brilliance, in my God consciousness, in the anointing. Like up here is rare air for sure, but up
Mm-hmm.
here is where I get to have the greatest impact
Mm-hmm.
to everything that is a part of my assignment. So
And,
settling
and
is
you know
not.
what? My juicy language would say that is the land of milk and honey.
Yeah, for sure. Because I was in the wilderness a long time.
Now,
So,
why would you tell, with all that we've talked about in terms of wealth, lack, sacred sisterhood, and you definitely have witnessed the birth of Juicy Spirit. You were definitely a midwife in many ways in me birthing it. Why would you tell a woman, which you have told many women, why would you tell a woman to have this Juicy Spirit awakened experience?
so she can step into the manifestation of who she really is and be supported as she is evolving into her. You don't have to do this alone. I think that's a beautiful thing about it. It is definitely an intimate sisterhood. There's wisdom, depth of wisdom and knowledge there that will bless you and give you tools to live in the exceeding abundantly of the promise that's attached to every one of your lives. Um, so you don't want to just be juicy, you want to be awakened with it. You want to be conscious in your evolution and in your expansion, and back to those words again, in your experiences. You want to have awakened experiences.
Mm-hmm.
You want to live in your power and not in your pain. And to me, Juicy Spirit Awakened empowers and equips women to live from a place of power and victory versus pain and victimhood. There's two different experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is two different experiences, and I'm glad that you said that, because there are many programs out here which we've seen them and investigated them, that teach you how to um, chase the orgasm or keep the man. One of my tailor-made quotes is, so often we come to women's circles or to something like this with the mindset of I'm gonna try to keep my husband, or I'm gonna try to get me a husband, all the while forgetting the concept of losing yourself. And so it's okay if you come to Juicy Spirit to get a man, because you could, or a partner. It's okay if you come to Juicy Spirit to learn how you can be multi-orgasmic. You can learn that too. It's okay if you come to Juicy Spirit because you're just curious and you want to work through some issues. But one thing that happens in the process is that lets me know that God's presence is all over it, is the part that I have no control over, the part that I can't touch. I don't touch. And that's the allowing of spirit to come in. And so I do want to invite you, sisters, to do two things. One, go to my Facebook page, which you can find just like here, right here on the screen. Rebirth by LaTanya Taylor. And there, under coaching programs, there is a slideshow and then a link for you to experience a free consultation with me, or enroll in Juicy Spirit. Right under products is a gateway for you to make your deposit. I do have deposit and payment plans available for those of you. I love it when we say we can't afford this and we can't afford that, but we break our necks on the outside. So this is an investment that is going to be the gift that keeps on giving, because it won't be something that is outside of you. The second thing is, I would want you to go to Elder Vikki Johnson's page, Reverend Doctor. I don't know what sequence to put it in. Go to allthingsvikki.com. And Vikki, can you tell us when your book will be re-released?
Yes, working on it being released in January, by January 15th. Hopefully it will be ready. I've done everything I'm supposed to do. So January 15th is the target date. And my website will hopefully be live in the next 2 weeks. But if you go to allthingsvikki.com now, you can join my mailing list. And if you're on Facebook, I'm at Elder Vikki Johnson. That's Vikki. But on Instagram and Twitter, it is All Things Vikki.
So there you have it. We definitely could have more discussion about it. Elder Vikki Johnson and I did a seminar called the Olivia Pope Syndrome. And I do look forward to collaborating with her to release that as a MP3 that you can purchase and actually do some of your own inner work and digestion of the search for significance, while on the inside there is sorrow. So I think there'll be more as Spirit reveals that Elder Vikki Johnson and I will do together. But one thing that I want to close with is, as you watch this, us celebrating our relationship and celebrating, and it came through watching each other go through many phases of our own development, ups, downs, valleys, expansion, release. Know that, sisters, you do not have to do everything alone. You don't have to carry the weight of your desires. Your desires are there for a reason. They are it would be an unjust God concept to give you desires, to give you something that you want in your life, and then have a punishing type relationship with it. And so if you want to unlock these desires, link up with women who love women, who celebrate womanhood, who celebrate sisterhood, and not from a place of should, a place of judgment, or have to, just as a place of choice. And so I hope that you will choose what we've offered here tonight. We've gone a little over, but it's all right, and it's on time. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I love you, Elder Vikki. Thank you so much for joining me.
I love you too. I love you too. Revivals go over sometimes.
I know. Now we got to have a juicy lock-in. But at the beginning of the year, ladies, I do want to tell you this. I will be doing a prayer called, ironically, it's a womb magic prayer call, and it's going to be titled from a sermon series that I've done several times called Can You Hear Me Now? It is going to be free for you to attend this and just for us to start emptying. I'm going to be starting that every Sunday of the week and in January. And then also we're approaching the winter solstice. And if you would like to go into your new year ready, this is the season to do it. The winter solstice begins on Sunday. I have a product offering called 777 Lift Off. I'm trying to slow down. 777 Lift Off. And it's to rebirth your vision and launch into your new year. So that will be available as well on my site and on my Facebook page. And I hope you've enjoyed this revival series. Please leave your comments on YouTube or at the Facebook site. We welcome contrasts at Rebirth International. Questions. Challenge me. Don't accept what I say. Do your own research, because I'm not trying to be anyone's guru. What I am purposed to do is to create a space for you to become your own guru. And on that note, I love you. Peace and blessings.
Good night.
Good night. Vikki, don't hang up.